one more time. Joseph?
Yep.
Can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
And hang on a second, let me see if I can get you on the system now. How about now?
Yes.
There we go.
Hey, thank you, Chad.
Thanks, Chad.
Four A, public hearing on 2023 HMA resurfacing project. Motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Scaries? Yes. Joseph Jones?
Yes.
Libby?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Harms?
Yes.
Any members of the public here to speak about the resurfacing project? Hearing none, motion to close.
Second.
Roll call.
Scaries? Yes. Jones?
Yes.
Libby?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Harms?
Yes.
4B, consideration of resolution number 2022-37, a resolution awarding contract for 2020 HMA overlay project. Motion. Second. Discussion on council. Hearing none, roll call.
Scaries? Yes. Jones?
Yes.
Libby?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Harms?
Yes.
4C, public hearing on 2022 PCC patching project. Motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Scaries? Yes. Jones?
Yes.
Libby?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Harms?
Yes.
Any members of the public here to speak about the patching project? Hearing none, motion to close.
Second.
Roll call.
Scaries? Yes. Jones?
Yes.
Libby?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Harms?
4D, consideration of resolution number 2022-38, a resolution awarding contracts for the 2023 PCC patching project.
Second.
Discussion on council. Hearing none, roll call.
Scaries? Yes. Jones?
Yes.
Libby?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Harms?
Yes.
5, public forums, time set aside for comments from the public on topics of city business other than those listed on the agenda. No action may be taken. Please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and keep your comments to no more than 5 minutes. Public comment? Hearing none. 6, consent agenda. Motion. So moved. Roll call.
Scaries.
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Libby.
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Harms.
Yes.
7A, consideration of resolution number 2022-39, a resolution accepting Clyde Learning Academy easements. Motion.
So moved.
Discussion on, well, Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a wrap up of the original site plan work that was done for the CLA project. It's underway right now. The site plan approval also required that the city obtain some easements for utilities that go through that property. And this is the final step in that. If you have any questions relative specifically to the easements themselves, Aaron has been part of that and can answer those questions.
Now discussion on council. Hearing none, roll call.
Scaries.
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Libby.
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Harms.
Yes.
7B, consideration of authorizing $15,000 for Fall Fest fireworks with J&M displays. Motion.
So moved. Second.
Dennis.
Just as we did with the 4th of July festivities, Chief McCluskey has organized the firework display proposal with J&M Displays, and the price quoted to the city is $15,000. The way, though, that this is developed is we basically tell the consultant or the contractor how much the city's interested in spending for the display, and then they design the display that costs desired. If you're interested in finding out what the different types of shells have been added to this program, it's basically the 4th of July program with some additional fireworks added to reach that $15,000 level.
Discussion on council, questions? Hearing none, roll call.
Scaries.
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Libby.
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Harms.
Yes.
8A, reports, Harms.
Today, first committee, being super excited. For the drafts we got back from Bolton. And this will be coming to y'all in September. It's a super important plans. And so excited for what is to come of that. Yeah, communications on Wednesday, and last week we didn't have back, but we did. But I was able to participate in the rivers. My icon. Thank you. Favorite. The icon park. Thank you. And so good meeting talked about the projects that are going to move into motion here in this next year, and the financing that has been secured. There's a few communities that still haven't made commitments. We're working on Bennington or Carlisle, and Ankeny, I believe, are three that still haven't made a commitment. Will and so that's pretty much it. That's it.
Campbell.
To add on to Teresa's statement about the park ad hoc committee, residents that are on the advisory group, we're also very excited about the design and how it will attract people. Right? So very excited to show everybody details of that in September. I attended the DART meeting this month. A lot of great things going in motion for DART. Fall festival plans are well underway. The signups for the parade in WHAM, which is Windsor Heights Annual Mini Marathon, are open online. You can register. WHAM registration is open until the 9th of September, but if you really want a nifty WHAM shirt with a throwback logo, you need to register by August 30th. Special events will be meeting on Friday at So most of our conversation will be Fall Festival heavy as well as what we've got coming up in November for Veterans Day.
We'll be featuring Lauren on the edition of Insight on this news hour talking about all this week. I did another coffee with council this past weekend. It's always nice to be able to sit at Browns for Celebration, visit with not only residents but also visitors. One of the more, I think, important conversations I had was with a couple that recently sold their home here in Windsor Heights, and because they couldn't take care of it anymore, and they're moving to a retirement community outside of Windsor Heights. And they expressed their desire they would have loved to have stayed here, which just once again I think underscores the need for us to move forward with any type of retirement type housing together. For that's
Thank you. Jones,
Nothing for me, Mr. Mayor.
Scaries,
Field of Dreams was the movie that we played on August 5th. It was well attended and I saw a lot of faces that I hadn't seen before. So I think that kind of goes to the new round of social media posts that we've done and all of the signs that we've put up across Windsor Heights. So I know Lauren asked kind of a few questions as to, well, how'd you hear about this? Because we hadn't seen their faces before, and they said, some said the sign at High B, and so we're just kind of trying to brainstorm more ways to let people know about the movies in the park and actually all of our special events so that we can have a large crowd attend. DART was there and they gave tours of their new electric bus, and then they had the remote controlled buses that they were moving through obstacles, and it was kind of funny to see the kids do the remote control, and they figured out how hard it was to drive a bus. And I never even attempted to because I knew how hard it was to drive a bus. So then Windsor Presbyterian provided the cookies for their 100th year anniversary that they are kind of doing this year. So that was nice. They were able to come out and hand out some fun items for the kids as well. So it was nice to have them kind of come out and talk to people. So had some new faces there that we saw as well. Then I was reading through the August Iowa League of Cities publication, and I saw that Windsor Heights is in a bracket for the People's All-Star Community Award. For this time, we're up against North Liberty, the neighborhood ambassadors. So a big thank you to Mayor Jones for filling out the 2022 All-Star Community Award application for the city. Even if we didn't win this award, it still got us into this different bracket. So at least we're getting the city out and noticed into different publications. I'm going to do a little plug here because voting starts August 29th. So we would like to make sure that we kind of go up against North Liberty. And even though they have 15,000 people, I'm sure that we will get all 5,000 of our people to vote on Facebook. We have that chance. So then we have, or I talked to Mayor Jones about the city participating in the Cities Walk Challenge. Iowa Healthiest State Initiative does this challenge every year. So this is something that we will be discussing at Friday's Special Events Committee meeting. And Mayor Jones has nicely offered to lead this event for us. So that the date of the walk is October 5th. And then Touch a Truck will be happening on September 2nd. And I hope to have a lot of people, everybody that's in town, I hope that you all attend because it should be a fun event. I think even Adam's going to be there to take pictures and so that we can use it on our social media posts. So I know Lauren and I have been working really hard on getting the information out to people through social media and other avenues. So appreciate it when the city and then as well as us council members and the mayor kind of push things out so that we get as many people to see our events as possible. That's it.
thank you. Dennis? Nothing. All right. Adjourn.
Still moved.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Roll call.
Scaries,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Libby.
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Harms.
Yes.
6:20. Yeah, like you did.
Yeah, so it just keeps going.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure since it
You're doing-
was.
I understand you were spotted. Spotted, yes, our city manager spotted you someplace this weekend.
I'll just say you can. Can use that.
I will try to say to
Yeah, just
go and
have people that say something. we should.
that's why I think
We do, thank you.
There it is, big again.
There you go. For the record.
I just don't understand why people don't use the Capitol. I mean, granted, it's a little bit harder during the weekday, but it's still so much easier
Oh,
to
it's-
just take that
Oh.
bus and go back, and even Southeast Polk, you know,
I just never seen it.
it's,
Yeah, for $1.
Yeah.
You know, they drop you off. It's bad.
And then you
I mean,
have to pay to park.
Yeah.
yeah, and you don't have to walk as far. I mean,
Mhm.
you're already walking 10 miles.
Right.
Hey,
They have parents. It's scary.
Oh, yes. One or two. Yeah, several.
Well, I confused myself because the Bills had a preseason game on Saturday. They played the Colts. And so I'm walking and of course I'm a Bills fan and I'm walking and there's people wearing Bills shirts. Well, my whole Facebook feed with people wearing Bills shirts because they're all the pregame, you know, and then you go into the game. And so I was completely confused and I looked at my husband. I'm like,
What's going on?
what? And so then it ended up that, because a woman looked at me, she's like, are you a Bills fan? Because I looked at her, I must have had that confused look on my face. There's more than 2 of us in the state, but her son actually plays for the Bills. So then she started talking to me and it's like,
Did you happen to see the?
I did not.
There's so much.
Mhm.
6:24 PM, August 15th, 2022, work session of the Windsor Heights Council. Roll call.
Scaries? Here. Jones?
Here.
Libby?
Yes. here.
Campbell?
Here.
Harms?
Item 2, strategic visioning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, the administrator, Councilmember Jones. I know that you received information electronically, and I had just sent to you the Compact for Excellence, which has been passed out to the council members, the mayor, the administrator. Tonight's focus is really getting your input on the survey questions, and our desire is by the time we're finished tonight, conversation that we have a completed survey that meets your expectations, that then Cassandra will put final touches on that and it will then be deployed through the channels. As we move forward. Before she starts with that, I did just want to refresh from our last meeting with June. Lots happened since June. But we did work on the Compact for Excellence, which was a very simple question throughout this process. What will it take for us to do our best to treat each other with care and respect? Yeah, great input, insights. It was a lengthy list, which we combined. That's which is what's before you today. Put it into 4 main categories to bring our best selves to the conversation, present, focused, and engaged, assuming best intentions, respecting each individual, their ideas in the process, to be solutions oriented, looking for and both opportunities, to be empowered to participate with an open mind, humility, compassion, thoughtful judgment, and self-reflection. Have honest communication, which would include active listening, seek to understand as well as being understood, and clarifying questions. And then finally, to represent the community. So that's your language of what's been condensed and woven together. I would want to certainly, as we did that night, affirm that those were positive thoughts that we would work with through this. I'd like to move forward. Each session we'll revisit this to make sure it's a working compact. If there are things that change, need to be modified. And I will acknowledge that there's a lot of different grouping that this could have been done in. This was my best attempt to try and put your thoughts together. So I certainly welcome and entertain if you have any further thoughts or clarity on this. If not, we'll assuming it's still your intention to work this way. Turn it over to Cassandra. Any comments before we go to Cassandra? All right, very good. Thank you. It's an honor to be with you tonight. Look forward to the next step.
All right, so we're going to do our best to navigate technology and all of these pieces together and be efficient all at the same time. So if you're willing to bear with me a little bit, I'll have all of these moving parts and pieces. So if you recall tonight, what we are positioned to be ready to do is move into our research and data collection phases. So at the end of our last meeting, we had talked about that as we think about organizing the vision for the city of Windsor Heights, we wanted to collect perspective before we move into our next round of conversation. And the way that we were going to approach that was by moving into doing surveys. And our focus, and in front of you, I sent you an outline document that included how we were going to approach capturing the perspective and then the outlines of the surveys. So balancing between the screens here, I want to just quickly go through the outline. And then our goal tonight is to actually work through each of the surveys. So the document that I have in front of you that I printed for you actually includes the feedback that Lauren shared with me in advance of tonight. What I want to do in the document that I'm sharing, which is the document that includes the feedback that Lauren shared, is track the changes that you have for me tonight so that you can see what the questions will look like. But my goal is to be able to walk out of here tonight as close to final, if not final, what we want in the surveys, so that I can leave here tonight and we can start building the surveys, because you will see our goal is to be able to issue this with the city newsletter so that we have the links going out where folks can start accessing it right away. So if I'm moving too quickly, you all know me well enough at this point. You need to just interrupt me and know that these are all in draft form, so there's no private authorship here. We wanted to have something that you all could react to so that, again, we can remain efficient in the process. And Mr. Jones, that goes the same for you. I know we're in this virtual environment, so please do not hesitate to unmute yourself, especially as we are in this work session. I don't want to rely on chat. So just please unmute yourself and use your voice to talk to us, especially since we don't have video. So you're unmuting, I see you, you're with me.
Sounds good.
Okay, perfect. So again, as we move through this outline, 3 surveys that we're going to leverage in this process. 2 internal stakeholder surveys, and internal meaning citizens and residents of Windsor Heights, and then also staff. Staff was a special survey that we added to this process. And then external stakeholders, wanting to reach businesses, regional partners, peer city managers, and mayors. So there are 3 surveys that we're going to walk through tonight. We wanted to make sure that we were very intentional with the survey. So no more than 10 to 15 questions. We want people to be responsive. If we give them 45 questions, they aren't going to take the time to go through the surveys. So I know we have folks in the survey going, yes, I'm not going to respond to 45 questions. So as you look at the question structure, we do have some qualifying questions that are important to us just to get perspective. Obviously, knowing how long folks have lived in the community is really important, and the makeup of their family. What are they representing as they respond to the questions? Most of the questions are multiple choice, so we give folks some, just again, perspective as they're responding to things. But every single question has an open comment box, so we're giving them things to think about and prompt their thoughts, but we are not limiting them. So if there is a thought that we have missed on any question, they can add that to the question. The other thing too, all of the surveys will be issued via SurveyMonkey. So very powerful tool that I have used in multiple survey processes, something that most folks are familiar with. With using the electronic survey links, it gives us power in being able to use the analytics. So that's what's really important, is being able to turn the information around. These are easy clicks that folks can do both mobile on their phone, or if they want to go to a browser in the library, they can sit down and navigate from a browser as well. So what we need from you: review and approval of the survey questions. This is not a Cassie Falls or Scott Rapper survey. This is a City of Windsor Heights survey. So again, if there's something in these survey questions that don't feel right, you need to tell us. This has to be right for you in this visioning process. On the external stakeholder list, again, we need your input on this list. Dennis has done a great job of giving us a starting point, but if there's anybody you feel is missing, you need to let us know. And don't worry tonight as you look at that list of, say, here's this person and here's their email address. You just give us the people, we'll circle back on the logistics. And then we're in the meeting to review tonight, and hopefully again, review and approval tonight. So how do we plan to share the surveys? The city newsletter is our big way we want to express access to the survey. We know that's going to be issued the week of Labor Day, so we have a huge milestone that we want to hit. We will also leverage newspaper and getting the link out in the newspaper. The surveys will also have QR codes where if people want to just scan it with their phone, they'll be able to do it with that. Social media, we will ask the mayor to do a video message, so it isn't just something that people read. We want it to be expressed with enthusiasm and excitement. This does impact the future of the city. And we will engage the media. So we're hoping that with KCCI and some of the other news stations that we can get a news story out there. And Councilmember Libby, we're hoping you'll promote it with your station and your program as well. And again, the QR code we talked about. The staff survey will be issued with a personal email from the city manager. And then the external stakeholder survey will be issued with a personal email from the mayor. So those are things that I will draft and then provide to both of them to edit, put into their own with their own spin, and then issue from there.
Hey, Cassie, just a couple other questions.
Sure.
So the city newsletter, is that the print newsletter that goes to everybody then? Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that that was that situation. So I'm assuming the QR code then will go into every publication. And then something else. Oh, could we also maybe create a flyer-based sort of something that would have, or whether it's a newspaper or whatever, that we could make like a high tea or the coffee shop. People maybe don't see it otherwise, or can have that QR code. I think it's probably like if there's a, you know, just a flyer script. Great.
And then as we move forward, we just have the dates laid out. So not going to recite all of the dates to you. You can see the critical dates that we have noted here. Have any questions on the dates? The big piece here is that the survey will be open for 2 weeks. It will close on September 23rd. And then we will take a month to process the data. And our goal is to be able to bring those themes back to you November 10th. Any questions on process outline?
The survey, it's via SurveyMonkey gift register.
No.
And does it limit, is it like one per IP address?
Yes.
Are they gonna be anonymous?
Yes. Great questions.
A question on the reminder, obviously we don't want to email staff too frequently with it, but emailing social media for the citizen, is putting together the social media posts. help us, or what kind of reminder schedule. So I know that we've got several weeks social Facebook posts that go out every day. Great question. We haven't talked about how to do that specific piece. The reminders primarily for the community will go through social media. So yes, I can help craft some of those things, designing the actual post if we're going to have it graphically appealing. I can do text, but graphic part. It may be just resharing the flyer. That would be incredibly effective. Okay. Just the guidance on the some frequency. Normally one time bringing it back to the top. And maybe there's a way that we can make sure that that's the one post shared that day.
Just pin that.
So it doesn't get lost.
I would also suggest for all of the council members that have social media or that like that space to share it as well, whether it's on your council site or personal. Because, you know, that's how
I can say step away from microphone. I can craft an email for mayor and city council to share, or a message for mayor and city council to share as well. And I don't move too quickly. Councilmember Jones, any thoughts or comments from your perspective?
No, nothing for me. I think that I felt pretty good with what everyone else has said already.
All right, are we ready for survey questions? And again, we can go back at any time, so. All right, so the city resident survey. First question, all things considered, how satisfied are you with living in Windsor Heights? This would be a slider bar where they could slide across from 1 to 100%. And then again, open comments. So they could free flow their thought, any thought that they wanted to share with regard to satisfaction. I'm going to keep going unless you have. Second question, how well is Windsor Heights doing meeting your expectations? This would be a number rating, 1 to 5. Numbers are explained, and then again, an open comment box with the question of if we're not meeting your expectations, if or if not, why? If we are meeting your expectations, why? If not, why not?
I'm wondering if space allows, if we might write something on if exceeds why, or if not why. And because I think the if or if not kind of gets a bit lost. If what? I suspect most folks falling in the middle have much to say about it. It goes on either side.
So does that look better?
Well, I can't see it, but I assume it does.
I can make it.
Ah, there we go. Thank you.
What do you like most about Windsor Heights? And this is a check all that apply. So it isn't a pick one or two. They can select all that they apply. The one comment that Lauren added was the proximity to Des Moines and other suburbs. And then there is an other. So if you miss something on the list, folks can add something else. And then again, there's an open comment box. So if there's a comment specifically that they'd like to share.
So I see that this is more about like, I think about the last time we did this, maybe 2017. I think that's the last one that we asked like about safety and city services and stuff like that. And these are more about like the facilities or access to like, I mean, I'm okay with it. I just thought that was like a total difference for me. Just thinking about the past, so I guess whatever.
We'll see later. We had quite a discussion with us about, should all this stuff be positive, big positive? Or should there also be some criticism of it that would, in SWOT analysis, be considered a threat that we could focus on to try to alleviate? So you'll see there are answers to some of these subsequent questions that aren't always going to be somebody chooses to paint rosy. We want to know that as much as whether or not they're really getting trails around us. So, you know, I think Sandra's talking about jumping in and speaking in, even if it's something that you've heard and talked with other elected officials, criticism of Winter Heights. Maybe we should talk about it, include it in this list.
So back to Teresa's question. I think that's a fair question. And a good one.
Wanted you to make a broad category that would have a drop down comment about city services. Inclusive. If not, you can have a different question or bring it in from this conceptual entity base into specifics, public safety, library, things that are being offered. But I think within this list, we wanted to put city services to give people an opportunity to do that. We put a separate comment box on that one. If they check that box, please list services. It'd just be one option. You want to do that. I don't think it detracts from the question. The other elements of the question, city services will not detract, but it is different. Restaurants, access to sports.
Does the fact that you have the open comment box in there at all, Scott, just kind of lead you to that answer anyway, because you're asking somebody to explain why they ticked off 3 or 4 of those options.
If somebody feels strongly about it, then they will put that in. So one of the things with some of these is that they're bombs. Like somebody might think, oh yeah, I really do like tree-lined streets. I just hadn't really thought of that. If you don't put tree-lined streets on there, that might not be something somebody's going to put together. So you are correct. Anybody that has a strong feeling one way or the other, I really love the city services. They just saved my spouse's life the other day, or oh, can't get somebody to come out here and take care of this. But we'll get a response on your open comment. It's more of a neutral one. So you won't get. But I like the way some of the designers with the open comment box should.
I don't think people will think about city services to Scott's point.
That's
Um,
my, I agree.
And because it's, what do you like most about Winter Heights, and then you read that list, and it's not, you don't think, or at least I didn't think city services. What I looked at, or how I looked at this was, okay, reflecting on the 2017 survey and what was different and how, what, you know, some of that's baseline too. How do you compare from year to year, have you grown or whatever, you know? I'm not saying we replicate that, but I do like the drop down on city services and asking that question, because those are things that I think we need to know as well, and can help guide us in the areas. It's not just about facilities, it's definitely about services as well.
Is there a way that we can even make that into a question, or is that going to add in too many questions? Because then we're kind of.
I would almost do it as a separate question.
It's the 2017 survey, combined 50 questions, and under quality of service, I mean, there are 19 alone. Ambulance, animal control, building inspection, but we probably find a middle ground, not just going service by service.
Yes,
That's
Maybe
public
department,
works,
yeah.
public safety,
they
I don't
get
know.
well,
yeah,
pretty-
building services or whatever the inspections.
So I'll do a quality of service by department where they can, if we use the same scale of meeting expectations.
Well, let me jump on the other side of that coin. If you were to put, and I was thinking about this, please leave off city administration. Think about it. But if you were to ask that question legitimately, like what's anybody gonna think about that? Like finance department, somebody gonna jump in and go, boy, finance department's on the ball, they're doing it. I think what we're talking about is those field services that people receive every day and they run into. So snow plowing, police, law enforcement, fire protection, those types of things that translate into the services people receive, they actually know they're receiving.
Let me do this, if you're willing to give me a little bit of latitude tonight. Let me take this conversation into account, and let me process it a little bit, and let me craft a question to get back to you to think about. Because I mean, to Dennis's point, depending on your experience, I mean, we could get some really skewed data that isn't pretty helpful, right? Let me think about it. Let me do a little bit of research and let me come back with something. I know where you want to go with it, right? I get it. Let me give it some thought. So, and let me figure out the right place to put it.
How is the president contact public services? And I do think it should not. I think you're right, Sam. I don't think it should go into what you like most about these scale and the box, which is not. So I do think that's, I think there's so many ways to go about it. Even if it's not really a 16 question, hearing the process.
At least we're not at 50 questions. I mean, we're not even half there, so.
Yeah, we're only into the third question. But
I guess I'm jumping ahead, sorry.
Good number of Democrats. What are your biggest concerns about, aside from that question, are we good to jump off that? Okay. What are your biggest concerns about Windsor Heights as we continue to grow and change?
I guess for me, when I looked at people can afford to live here, that to me was like, how am I thinking that? Is that because our taxes are too high? Is it because I didn't really know where we were going with that. That was a little, and maybe that was just me at midnight trying to go through this and not, but I wonder if we could word it a little differently, but I don't know how to word it, so.
Probably just the word affordability.
I think you have to look at it in the context too of the question. What are your biggest concerns about as we continue to grow and change? So, I mean, and then I read but that was again my perspective. So I respect where you're coming from, but I had to read it a couple times to think about it.
We say check all the five questions.
We kind of danced around the real question is taxes. Because, I mean, let's say that your real estate values skyrocket over the next 5 or 6 years. On one hand, that's great, right? Because you cash out and move to Boca Raton, but the other part is that's going to impact your tax burden.
When I talk to people, a lot of times people are concerned about the taxes. You know, like what are we doing with taxes? Where are we at? Because, hey, if it gets much more, another $100 a month, and I'm going to have to start thinking about what I'm going to do. But I don't know if that falls under affordability.
When I read the question, I thought of more dense affordable housing. So, we're on this bus route, we have access to a lot of services and stuff, but as far as available apartments and, cost of living increases and stuff, there's not as many affordable places for sale.
Sure. There's not, I think affordability is a different thing, but just literal housing.
Yeah.
There's not a tremendous amount of housing. So I feel like they can do.
I think if you throw taxes in there, who's going to say, I don't care. I think most people would probably check the box and say taxes. I don't know if that tells us much.
I agree with you, Michael, from perspective, I don't know if it tells us enough because people still don't understand that we don't have the assessments on their house.
Right.
Right, that that's not, you know, and so there's misunderstanding of our role in making it affordable or not making it affordable either.
But maybe if we see that a bunch of people do put that down, then somehow we have to figure out how can we better communicate to our residents. And I think we've done like Michelle's done a great job of helping us explain to people, and you know, maybe we've gotten better since the last survey. I don't remember all the survey questions that I took.
Your pie chart is wonderful.
Well, keep in mind, we do have, if there are interesting findings that come from the survey, one of the options that you have in moving forward is convening some focus groups to
Right.
dig deeper into some of these things. So, and I think the hard part about affordability is without turning this into 8 ways of
Yeah.
defining that, it's going to be things to different things to different,
As we've seen here.
right?
It's also the type of question that will be influenced by outside impacts. The response to affordability today will be different than what it did 12 months ago. Just
Exactly.
because of the cost of gas, the cost of milk, the cost of bread, all of those things. So what was affordable a year ago may not be in our mind. And we're so heightened concern. But just one of those to be aware of that there's outside factors and influences beyond what we can control, how people are going to respond to affordability.
And it typically isn't unique to one community, large metro area.
But I do think it is one that people will put their thoughts in comments and either say property tax or, you know, they'll get specific about housing or
The affordability though works better.
I do like. This is the hard part about being.
I want to ask a question about available housing, but that's broad. There's a lot of categories. I want to ask it based on the comments of the council members reports tonight, that there's an issue of senior living housing. Is that something that should be called out specific in here as a sub-bullet? If you go that route, then you need to call out affordable housing, which is a moniker of type of housing, not just, everybody wants affordable housing regardless of where you are in the social
How do you
track.
define it?
But how do you define what is affordable housing? So that's just a question I had based on the comment earlier. That's housing allows you, somebody could put available housing, and they could go in the comment box and concern there's no senior living option in Windsor Heights, or I would like to see that. So I think that there's a balance. You can't craft a question every situation, but open-ended box gives that if people have that on. It's a prompt.
Does adding the word options after housing focus it a little more?
I was gonna say just adding, housing, however, Scott, did you say access?
Access to senior living options. There's a way to
I think given what we're doing economic development wise, that would give us, we get a lot of response on affordable senior housing or senior housing period. That could give us impetus to do maybe more.
I don't know if we want to, I know it's housing, it's something I hear about all the time. But, I don't know if we want to just to.
I like how you've done that, where you put options. But that is, what we're trying to do here with this question, is prompt people to think about available housing options. Oh, affordable, senior, rental, residential, other. Yeah, I want to put that in common, so that we're not trying to lead that.
Sure.
Yeah, perfect.
Keep going.
What makes you feel connected to our community?
Consider community, I'm sorry for this, I think that's what I.
I think the thing that stood out to me is that we left out people, like my neighbors or something there.
Hmm.
We talk about the things, but nothing about, I mean, it could be people related that aren't access to city leaders.
Keep going. What are the most essential changes you would like to see occur over the next 10 years?
I like, what you did with the affordable housing options, parentheses, can you repeat that for the first one? Add the example.
Or housing options. And then
I apologize for the scrolling.
Are we limiting? the amount that someone can choose? Like top 3 or top 5 or just saying. Leaving it up to the viewer.
Just look at that.
No,
So it's not
I just,
top 3 choices. Idiot vote.
can we just say improve parks and trails? or something?
I don't see any type of, I know that this is something just because of what I hear on a daily basis as I walk the dogs. I don't see anything about like roads and having all of our roads completed or have more of our roads where we don't have. Yeah. Did I miss that?
No, I.
Okay. No, that's that's the word I was looking for, but I just wondered if I missed it because you said it so nicely.
If you're gonna actually say improve parks and trails, why not say improve roads?
You're the winner. Sandra, can you say more about office parks?
So office,
More development
space.
Okay.
That'd be office space rather than park.
Sure.
So,
There's one. Industrial.
This day, where,
3M.
oh yeah, that would be,
That didn't be considered.
I
don't know if we literally do that.
I don't know where we could do that.
Like put an industrial like manufacturing.
Well, I thought the same thing, like looking at like shared collaborative workspaces, we have one, right?
And I looked at that.
You guys tell me, yeah, I think that one could probably come off, and I think, I mean, just thinking we don't have, for landlocked, we have limited capacity.
Distribution logistics centers, I mean, do we have the ability to do that either? I mean, 66th and University,
well, I think
63rd and Hickman.
as the community's redevelopment opportunities come available, what do you do with that? So, we were talking for the last meeting about we had the rental place that just AC extended up vacant. What are we gonna do with that? And so if our economic development strategy is to, well, let's just see what happens. Who's in there. Is that okay, or is that not okay? Would you rather see something else happen? I think I've had a conversation with a couple of you on the community for a few months now, and I think the concept there is work live and play in Windsor Heights. How do you accomplish that? I want to be able to move my young family with young children to Windsor Heights and be able to walk down the street to my office, work all day, and if I have to leave work to go here, take them to the doctor or dentist, can I do that in Windsor Heights? Is that a concept that you want to support, or you want to see if this is going to flesh out? Versus being specific about what kind of business you want there. I agree with Mike, the office space thing, I don't know if we would be doing ourselves any favors in terms of a visioning, but we sure would probably be helping out the Colby trusts of the.
I just think like when distribution and logistics, I think of like Amazon and Facebook or Meta or whatever. And I just, do we have the ability to, maybe we could bring in offices for that, like, but I guess for me, I think Altoona and Bondurant with their 52 miles of Amazon, whatever. So that's where my mind goes with that. But other people,
Order 12 acres of semi-trucks parked right up against the highway, yeah.
that's just where my mind went. Not that we have to remove it because we often do.
But doesn't make sense.
But yeah. That's just,
So,
Well, there's making sense, right? And there's what you want to. Sometimes just because you want to become something in 10 years, it may not make sense. But if it could something, you have to work.
I like the idea of being, a lot of the questions, I think what I'm hearing you say is that like, if the top rated on here is sports and entertainment areas and restaurant and dining options, then when we have business clubs available and you're out trying to attract a business, right? Like our residents are saying this is what they want. We've got this, not capital audience, close enough, right? But if we don't have space that's zoned for industrial / light manufacturing, is there any part of town that we would want to change that zoning?
No.
That was,
We should not put questions on a survey of things that are not practical or pragmatic, that can be done for landlocked, which we know. I mean, I don't even know myself. I can see where you could have a logistics center that's doing IT-based, set of trained all over the country, and solve. But the distribution center, that's a different type of, and I think people are familiar in the metro area about that. See distribution centers being built, and if you don't have capacity to actually functionally do that, probably not sufficient out. That's just my insight. Overall, we shouldn't ask people about things that aren't practical or pragmatic.
Sandra, could you scroll down to the question on that?
oh, sorry.
The most essential changes.
That speaks to me in terms of action phrases like more entrepreneurial opportunities, not specific to distribution of the business.
Welcoming quarters and entrances don't have those now.
we have it at University, 63rd and University, 63rd and Hickman, and then up at 73rd and Buffalo.
So,
So we have space.
I think we could take shared collaborative spaces off and distribution.
Adding something like tracking a large. Something that was questions. You know, tracking a business that has 50 or 75.
I was gonna say, wouldn't that be small to medium?
Yeah. All these got.
Oh,
Public work.
So is it just basically employment opportunities?
That would be.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry. So this is going back to the, gonna figure out a question. City services. Satisfaction. Questions. And sort of, I mean, if you amend line as opposed to having thoughts about how the city.
Well, again, we're thinking about vision. So we're trying to get a feel for how the residents want to see the city in the future. So as we're crafting a vision, you want the vision you craft for the city to align with the direction that the citizens and residents see the city going. So these kinds of questions give you insight as to what the citizens and the residents want from the mayor and city council.
And I think if you, I'm jumping ahead on the questions. You've got a lot of open-ended questions coming up that may be in that space.
There may be something that presupposes, or your question on that is that in a vision plan for a city, you will inevitably address things like public safety. Those types of services, that's the core element of governance of the city. So I think the ability to ask about that, from where are we now, right, where you on the spectrum. And you could make it as to say you want to put the response time on your ambulance or your police fire. Those are things you're naturally going to have a necessity addressing on an ongoing basis, as opposed to a vision. That's where I think trying to respond to what you were asking about. Should there be a public services piece in this?
And this is the hard part. And if you think back to the first conversation we had, you don't want to ask a lot about capital improvements because that's going to be the work that you do organically. You're going to improve streets, you're going to improve parks. What you want to assess is, what do people really want from you? Is it, or what do they want to see the city become, right? So if I can use a really bad example that everybody in the city, again, I'm from Carlisle, so I can say this is a great example as a person from Carlisle, right? Carlisle has made a conscious choice that we don't want to be a Waukee, right? We don't want to have all of that growth and all of the school districts and all of those things. That we have a really different vision for how we want the community of Carlisle to grow. Our struggle is residential housing, right? So it's a very different vision when we think about what's important to our community compared to probably what Waukee is thinking about, right? So when we defined the vision for Carlisle, we needed to know from the community what's important to us from that perspective. Because if we planned as a city and just took into account streets, roads, swimming pool, all of those things, we plan a very different city. But knowing from the community, from the residents, we want to say this was really important for how the city drove planning forward. Is that a good kind of level set? Kind of the way the perspective.
Can I ask a question though before we move on?
Sure, please.
So I think it says check all that apply. Now, is that something that we do want to have check all apply, or do we want them to rate like 1 through 3 or 1 through 5, or Like if somebody says that they want all of this, is that too much for us to really do or even look at in 10 years? Because that would be a lot for some poor city council member to be looking at, and some poor city administrator to try to figure out. Is that giving them, like, should we have them?
Maybe you want to limit.
Yeah, limit versus having check all that apply.
I said absolutely, because that lists who wouldn't check all of them.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
How many?
Do we ask people to check up to 5? I mean, if somebody selects 6, it's still be.
Well, I can limit it.
Oh, you can.
So when I say check up to 5,
What about rating? Or is that- What about rating? When I get a survey like that.
I hate rating.
So,
When I have 13, if I'm rating 5, then I can rate, and like, I can do that. But when it gets to 13, 16, 20, then I'm throwing numbers out there because I want to move on to the next question. That's a bad trait on my part.
okay.
What amenities do you leave Windsor Heights?
So our trails and bike routes, the same thing. And I don't think I personally might kind of chuckle about. Along the road. And that was all.
There's a bike rack behind this. Adam's with me. Well, not, it's not me.
But do you, okay, so you're leaving town to access a bike rack? Or are you actually leaving town so you can ride your bike to the place?
Well, I don't think that bike parking applies in this question, but I guess my question would be bicycle facilities or bike routes and trails, and wouldn't that be? Aren't those one and the same?
that would be the fine. Bicycle facilities could also be
Right, but that goes into shopping and retail centers. Unless we want. I just modified it, the rails from bicycle water. Bus.
Busiest.
Bus stop like the second. And this was bus stop. I'm not so sure that transit will give us a lot of data proportionate of that.
Yes. Sports and entertainment, should arts and culture be on there?
Yes.
You remove 10 and. You can see my question.
Casinos and sports wagering.
I'll let you take that one.
Once we get through the first survey.
Yeah.
makes Windsor Heights special? Open comment box. How confident are you about Windsor Heights' future? Slider bar.
That question, if anyone follows, if I were reading that, I might go, wait, should I be worried about Windsor Heights' future?
And I thought that too. I thought, well, what does that really mean? Is there lack of confidence on people's part about our future, or like, I don't know, is there a way that we could rephrase that into, I don't know how to rephrase it.
What are you trying to feel about?
Thank you. What are we trying to get out of that question? Just kind of the feel good about staying in Windsor Heights. So you are confident about, or maybe that's how confident are you that you will continue to reside in Windsor Heights?
Can we do that along with 3 or 4 options that would go 0 to 1 year, 3 to 10 years? That kind of
Oh, yeah,
thing?
like how long do you
Yeah.
picture yourself in
The
Windsor
rest of
Heights?
my life.
Okay, I'm just gonna make a note here for the sake of time. To add the years. Okay. Thoughts or ideas you'd like to share? Open comment box.
That could get interesting.
Do you feel you're getting good value for your tax dollar? Indeed, I do. I would encourage others to live in the city of Windsor Heights. And then we get into qualifying questions. How long have you lived in Windsor Heights? Has responded to the survey, what age group you fall into? What is the size of your house? So just as you know the importance to those questions, and Mayor Jones, to your question about confidentiality, those are the questions that we can sort the data on. So those qualifying questions, we would be able to sort based on how long folks have lived in the community, age group, and size of household. So.
I think that is appropriate. You know, the human capital survey was done for the Greater Des Moines Partnerships, which was all regions that provide out good point. So they like single parent household with 2 children. Just get so much data that it's so small, you don't get the value of it. So we did not go to that depth with this, the generalities of what we understood. We wanted to find out how to break them down. Is this age group saying how long people have lived here, what are they saying about that? So we want to make sure that we're getting the right demographic. Because those are the easiest questions for people to answer. They have to give no thought to that. They just have to answer who they are. They don't have to be
So the staff survey, now there is a lot of carryover from the questions from the primary survey to the staff survey. So you'll recognize those and we'll carry those changes forward. So the only qualifying questions we have for the staff is how long have you worked for the city and which department do you primarily work? Lauren did suggest one question. Do you reside within the city of Windsor Heights? Yes, no, and then why or what?
Just looking overall, the questions are written sort of piggybacking off of residents, and I think we probably estimated that less than 5% of Windsor Heights employees live in Heights. Lower. I think it would be better, just from my perspective, if the questions were geared towards the organization as opposed to the city. So, because it's the point of the city staff survey is about how they feel about, I think, the city organization, or is it just how they feel about the city, but they don't. If so few of them live here, I'm questioning the value of why we ask so many of these questions specifically related to things that people who live.
I think an outside-in perspective is pretty helpful, but I get what you're saying.
So that's kind of what I wrote here too. Because most don't here, and so do they even participate? Like, what do you like most about Windsor Heights? If they don't utilize the, you know, how do, maybe they don't know about our trails because like you're gonna access them, right? Or, you know, if they say that what are your biggest concerns, there's too many people because it makes more work for me. I don't, you know, I mean, just like those are, you think about those questions, how does it really apply to them? I guess I thought so.
I were employee, I want to know more about job security, the opportunity for advancement, wages, salaries, and benefits.
But that's not the purpose of this survey, and so I get where we were, the idea was to add us, Dennis asked us to add a city, or, okay, maybe not shaking his head, okay. There was a city staff add onto this, but based on the survey, I'm not sure that it makes sense.
My view is that employees should not be part of the survey. But the discussion was the employees bring kind of an expert voice to the services and what a good community is made up of. We go to conferences all the time, we see what other communities are doing. They're doing these for parks and trails, or they're doing this when it comes to emergency management. So we can provide that in terms of a voice if it's important. But and we talked about, this is probably the one thing we talked about the most when we were trying to figure this draft out. We do not want this, in our opinion, to fall into a culture, an organizational culture analysis. And so when you start asking those questions, is it important for you to have more time off? Well, now you've gone from trying to do a vision for your community at the 30,000 foot level to what does Dennis feel about? You've got to be, have more time off. So, I mean, if there's just no nexus to this survey, I would just urge you to just remove it. Let's not do it.
I would agree with you. I don't think you change the survey to get the information on the staff because that's a different, it's outside of the scope of what we're doing right now for this, for the community, because that's the purpose for the vision of our community. But I don't think that the questions are applicable, but I mean, so I'm thinking about what you said about, will they go to conferences and learn things, but that still doesn't have you, what do you like most about Windsor Heights? Well, that isn't, and maybe they could answer that, but my guess is most of them are.
They drive in and they drive out.
Drive out, right? They're not utilizing these, what we have to offer, or what are your biggest concerns about Windsor Heights as we continue to grow, right? I mean, I don't know that they're applicable. I mean, maybe it's available to people who live here as staff.
Well, since the survey data is separate than resident survey, I could see that to your point, you're probably not driving here to access our bike trails, for example, to probably other places where you can hop on the trail, right?
Right behind my
But-
house.
Exactly, but having the data, because it's separate, won't necessarily change, all the resident data and stuff, but it's just another data point of the things that city staff can see.
I think there's some valuable questions in here though, like, would I encourage others to work for the city of Windsor Heights? Yes or no? So maybe it's just not all the questions, maybe it's shorter.
And the other problem I think here is that the sample size is going to be so small.
You have how many employees? What, 30?
Well,
Full-time?
we were only planning on issuing this to department director level.
So like 4 people.
If
Is that
4 or 5 people. We had
It's so
longer,
anonymous.
we had a longer list of qualifying demographics.
So then
Have
this is,
nobody in-
I mean, yeah, absolutely nobody lives in Windsor Heights. So I guess I was thought, okay, well, we have one police officer that lives in Windsor Heights. We might have one public works person that lives in Windsor Heights.
Which
That's
would be
where I-
covered in presence.
So,
I think
I mean, I think that there's some good points that people could bring in, but then I would want all of the city staff versus just 4 or 5 people because they're the department heads. So I mean, we're already going to be able to hear from them. But if we bring in other people, maybe I guess,
It would be kind of interesting to hear from Frank.
I mean,
I'm gonna process it through this conversation, because when we left the last meeting, when we first proposed the proposal was the resident survey and the external stakeholder comment.
Yep.
There was at the last meeting, the leading that discussion was we need to get staff insight into this, should we have the third and get the staff. So I'm just trying to process through myself the purpose of gathering that information. I think there could be some questions on it, would be very relevant to the process. Others that would not make sense. Like the revision of the question about how confident you are, and then one about how long you plan to live, that doesn't make sense. But the question about asking executive management staff about what they see as concerns as they grow, community grows, or even about what they like about it, even though they may not live here, could give you insight of what's leadership and staff saying about what are the amenities like. Maybe it's not very where you go outside to get the amenities. These questions could still give you that differential of it's a scaled down staff survey, and maybe you want it to go to all of the staff. That's your call. We added it in because of your last discussion. And we decide now that we're talking this through, we don't think we want to survey the staff for that purpose. They can get on the resident survey and they can give their expertise through our normal communication. We'll take your lead on it. Those are the things that are in my mind about what would we be looking for. Is this would give you a differential of staff insight into some of those, like what are the concerns you've got as part of growth. Staff member may have a different perspective on that than a general resident because they are living it day to day. And so that's where there could be value in this.
Wouldn't something like this also be positive team building exercise within those departments? For example, maybe the public safety, fire department, buildings and grounds, the senior leadership gathers folks around and say, hey, let's talk about this. And then jots their thoughts.
I think that's getting back into organizational culture thing, which I think that there is a benefit in staff input. I think that if we do a staff survey, it should not just be for department heads, because that's
I agree.
for people. You can't create a vision of the city without considering the opinions of people who work for it. So there definitely is value. I just don't, a lot of these questions, I don't think they achieve what we want to get out of it. So
is this something that we can work on a little bit? This probably isn't something that you need to focus on right now, and then we can give it a little bit of time, because I don't think we need to give our staff 2 weeks to do it.
So let me, while you all were talking, let me roll through this with you and see if some changes here gets us a little bit closer. So what if we leave the first 2 questions? How long have you worked for the city of Windsor Heights? Which department do you primarily work for? And we could leave the 3 the way that we have it. We can take out question 3, meeting the expectations. I inadvertently deleted the question of do you live in the city? So you can tell me if you want that one or not. Take out what do you like most for the city of Windsor Heights? And then leave the question as we modified it above of what are your biggest concerns as we continue to grow and change. And there might be some things that we add to that list or change to that list based on city perspective, staff perspective. What are the most essential changes you would like to see occur in the next 10 years? Keep that one. And we might change or modify that list based on city staff perspective. And then we keep what 3 words or concepts would you like to see reflected in the city's vision statement? And we keep what makes Windsor Heights special. I would encourage others to work for the city of Windsor Heights.
Keith, is there anything specific you recommend we do more of or anything we should stop doing? And then what thoughts or ideas would you like to share as we shape the future vision?
Thank you. Much more good than.
Because
Just for clarity, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna ask for a favor since, the survey size will be so small, I think, and anonymity is important for this, I think that if you could scrub, before anything's presented to any of us, the departments that people are in. I know that obviously accessing that could provide context later, but, you know, I want Rochelle and Adam to feel comfortable being, you know, as board as they're comfortable. I want them to feel comfortable filling out the survey, and so if that data could be removed before any of us up here get it, I think that would add an extra layer of, anonymity.
How about the years of work though? Because we know
That's a
that
good
there's
one, too.
only Bill that has worked more than 20
know.
years. And
It's gonna
then
be pretty obvious.
less than a year, I think you're the only one that is less than a year. So
You
I
can
mean,
That's-
pretty much tell exactly
all
who you are
demographic
too.
stuff.
not that I really
Not from the survey.
you can go back and hear that you don't like me or you know what I mean.
There
It's
might be follow-up, or there might be additional context that could be provided or could be needed later, but just not for any of us up here.
Just to point on that point, is that there would need to be a qualifier within the survey.
Right.
That this is for research analyst information only, will not be utilized and report out to the city or something that way, because you are correct. If you've got a member that's less than 1 year in administration, and that's one person, and the anonymity is now gone, and they know that from filling them out. So I'm trying to think of value of getting this insight of having it knowing which area it's coming from or how many years somebody's been here.
Yeah,
Or
that's what I was
your
thinking of,
suggestion
because-
is just to not,
Well, you know.
we have to describe it to people if we're not gonna use it, so that they don't.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was gonna say, if there was a concern that needed to, you know, that didn't, if somebody had it in the open comment field, a statement that
Right.
could need support, like could be more context, like, oh, understand that this came from public safety might help the context of this comment, but not, I don't know. Maybe it's get rid of the demographics altogether.
There is a, once it's asked and answered, it's public information basically. So let's say somebody says, I don't really like Chief McCluskey. He never brings me a donut on Tuesdays. Right, I know,
Don't bring down.
but you can imagine. I know I'm gonna see that, right? I'm gonna see that because I'm one of the people that's participating in this process. And so we can say that the council's not gonna get that, but it's gonna be filed away somewhere. It's gonna be in the report or it's gonna be in my head. I might share it with Chief McCluskey because it might be something important. So it could lead to stuff we don't want to do.
Let's just not ask.
I would-
Yeah, you're not. Sure.
I think you'll get a lot more people that respond if you don't have those questions on there from staff.
I already saw Rochelle right there.
Yeah, like, oh my,
Is there
yeah,
not that plus-
yeah, circling all this.
Okay, so we're pretty close on that one. Let me just work on the. If you're finding a couple of those. Okay. So the last survey is the external stakeholder survey. So again, just looking at the please share your connection to the city of Winter Heights. That is a quick list again of who this survey will go to. So this is not a being shared with a broad audience. This is going to who you select this to go to. So if you look at the very last page of your packet, that is the start of the list of who this will go to.
I didn't notice the chamber at all on there.
Adam. Yep, this is just the start of the list. So if there's anybody who was missing, we need you to give us that information.
In question 2, am I jumping ahead too fast here?
Yep.
What does parochial mean?
Following the rules, to attach the rules.
Oh, here, I thought it was like a Christian school.
Everybody Presbyterian or what?
Is there a way that we can,
If someone interpret that word as being close community. Our parochial interest of our. interest of our school. The fact that you asked what it means is an indicator of. It's right. And if you're having that question, it doesn't. You want to respond.
you missed on the speed.
This will also come in as anonymous, it will not be filling this out, this is.
Correct.
West Des Moines, Maryland, Urbanville. This is just coming to the data back to you without any attribution. Correct.
But we want more than-
I think,
They'll
well,
pick mayor, they'll check one of those boxes.
right, they checked one of those, but it would not be.
But if you feel like, yeah, if you put other, but then it's very pop, or YMCA.
And
Right.
Dart or, I mean,
No,
Okay.
with those things, select regional partner or.
So knowing that, there's a couple of chamber board members that also live in Winter Heights, I wonder if we also put on the list, like, planning and zoning and board of adjustments, because they are engaged at kind of a different level, and invite them to look at these questions, because they're different enough. And maybe that's a separate email where you're like, hey, you're gonna get the residential survey, please do that, then also do this survey on the external state. Even though they're not, no?
I think it was watered down. I think we want to focus on the external aspect of it.
The,
But
that question number 2 that I feel like has a lot of opportunity for
can I ask what you mean by local business owner, was it? Is that what I read
yes.
up there?
So,
So like, I don't see any business owner. So what is your thought process? Because it's an external stakeholder survey. So local business owner, are you talking about somebody that owns, say, Grounds for Celebration because she lives in Urbandale? And she's not in the chamber. Is this somebody that is
Or
that what
like-
we're looking at, or?
like a hybrid. So
Okay.
someone who has businesses or an entity that has businesses in other communities, so they would have perspective of what it's like to be in a Windsor Heights or a Johnston, or so those different perspectives.
I think we just need to get rid of.
That's what I was gonna say, so.
That's what she said, it's not.
But I just wanted to see who we were, because I don't want to give you like a list of 500 names and then. So I wanted to kind of see where we were.
I probably don't. Just gonna say business.
represented.
That's a big one, I think business representatives.
So do you want to, at this point, kind of limit the business representative demographic that you're looking for? Because the Walmarts, 3E, Hy-Vee, Aldi, those business representatives are going to be different than the Grounds for Celebration. So are you looking at maybe medium to larger sized business representative and small business representative?
I think we did that. I mean, I think.
I mean, kind of
A
set
category?
Oh.
5 of one and 5 of the other, or because if you get 50 of one and 2 of the other, so
I think 5 of each is sample size.
then that would also lead, I think, Greg's name is on this list. Why? But that would be a nonprofit organization, and so maybe following that lead, you could have nonprofit representative and limit that to 5, so you could have a church representative, YMCA representative. Yeah,
Just curious, how do we figure out who we're going to have though in limit? I mean, because we want to have as much input as we can from people. I would feel bad if, like, we were looking at all of these businesses here and then here's my business. And why didn't I get? Does my opinion not matter? I hate to see that come out and then. We have like 5 or 6. We have at least 4. Revision, Walnut Creek, the Lutheran, the Presbyterian.
Okay, well then let's do this. Let's not limit the number. Because Cassandra, when she does the data analysis, she's gonna be able to weight that, right? These answers of the survey are going to go to that demographic label business. So the council, knowing how many they've got from one group, is gonna have you can weight that number, right?
So for clarity, in the ask, person or individual, the convention grounds for celebration, but not fill out residence survey because they're not a resident. But you want to get their input about the vision because they got a business in Windsor Heights. Currently, they wouldn't follow the residence survey, not follow the city staff survey. And we'd like to get that as an external input, at least to get their thoughts on what we're saying, right? To see what the questions here. In that case, I'm not sure about the deployment of that, because that's a broader deployment than a handful of other stakeholders kind of lives. But I think it's an important thing for you to get better information. Right now, they're not captured.
Right.
You would like to have that data, is what I'm hearing you say.
Well,
Resident business.
I
owner,
would,
we'd like to
yeah.
have their input. So we've got to figure out how that can also be communicated. So there's the invitation that goes, you want to send this to the mayors, city managers, and those stakeholders specifically. But there's then the broader element of distribution, that is, if you are a non-resident business owner, fill out this stakeholders. You're a resident business owner, fill out the residents. Same data. So there's just I'm just thinking through a deployment process of a broader stroke, because I had not thought through, discussed this.
Sorry.
Resident business owner who has a business here and want their insight. They don't fit in any category other than this category. Broad. That seems to make sense. And that's just a deployment issue. Couldn't the chamber help with that?
Sure, the chamber.
Wouldn't the chamber?
But some of those businesses don't belong to the chamber.
But what if,
So, but what if we take a handful, like if we know that there's, let's say we have 50 businesses and 35 of them are in the chamber. So we'll get that out through a chamber. Then there's 15 and there's 5 of us. So let's take 3 each and walk in with a flyer that's then say, hey, is that something that would be allowed for us to do? Or, I mean,
what
number are we looking for, like a number here? Magic number, as far as.
I'm processing here for a minute. Originally, as we approached the external stakeholder survey, we wanted to be really intentional about that. So we're talking about 2 different kinds of surveys here. So if you want a survey that you can blast to the business community, which is kind of what we're talking about, like in this scope here, that was a little bit different than the way that I had shaped the external stakeholders. I mean, we could use it that way, but that wasn't the way that I thought. So, I mean, to be honest, I would probably want to separate them from, and then we may want to have qualifying questions for the business survey, like how many people do you employ and what industry? Because there's probably a little bit more here to want to know about businesses that respond.
The only other way to possibly do that is through your resident survey, or your heights survey, where there's a qualifying question whether you're a resident or non-resident business owner in Windsor Heights. Because then you can still get the resident demographic, business owner demographic in that first survey. Because I do, what Cassandra's saying is, if you look at those questions, they're specifically on the target of that. What are your peer colleagues that you're working with thinking and feeling about Windsor Heights, which helps you petitioning process to know what those. The difference between an external stakeholder that's working with you, somehow, local business owner, you have to sign the Windsor Heights. So there is a differentiation. You don't want to try and accomplish two things with one survey that wasn't built for the purpose of that survey. So I do think there's a little thought. If because there's a demographic here that we're not in, which is the non-resident business owner.
And I think it's important that we hear from them as far as why are you here? Why have you decided to stay here? Why? What?
Yeah, and I think for economic development, for community, that's perhaps much more valuable. Dear Bob, and we love you, but what do you think about Windsor Heights? You know, for our internal purposes to grow, we really, I think, beneficial, better understand what our business community thinks about doing business.
I like the idea of using the resident survey, because since the survey information will go out via social media, there's a likelihood that somebody could access the survey that does not live in Windsor Heights, does not have a business in Windsor Heights, there's doing the Windsor Heights survey. And if you capture the question, do you live in Windsor Heights and do you have a business? If they answer no to both of those, that data can be set aside for consideration differently. So I'm in favor of asking that in there.
I've always got my mom.
No, Scott, you've been helpful, I think.
I only open my mouth to switch to, so.
I know she's processing, and I'm processing too, because we don't want to leave it at them. And we want to make sure that the questions that we went through, which were resident based, how long you intend to live here? If it is a non-resident business owner, that's not an appropriate question for them, and they bypass that question.
So maybe what we do is the way with the citizen survey, we can open the survey with, are you a resident of Windsor Heights? And if they say yes, then it'll go into the resident questions. And then, do you own a business in Windsor Heights, can treat into some specific questions about businesses then from that one survey.
And if I live in Windsor Heights as a resident and I own a business, what happens?
Then they would get both sets of questions. And then, are you a resident of Windsor Heights? No. And then it could still ask the question of, do you own a business in Windsor Heights and still get the business question.
So then your external, going back to this, your external stakeholder survey is going to be much smaller. And keep these focused questions, well, they're not focused, they're the opposite, they're open-ended questions about how people feel about.
So I'm gonna take off of this. So now I need to think about this here. What I would do on the external stakeholder survey list is I'm gonna take off local business owner, nonprofit, and the churches. Because that will go. And so this will just be mayors of your city, city managers, and regional partners.
Sounds good. More work.
So then
Is
they.
this,
I'm sorry.
I'm saying, is this, your experience, is this, are we making this into a panel when we're trying to go before to be overcomplicating this? Or is this still guidance and best practices? Okay.
Let me see if I can do it. Okay. And if I can't do it, then I'm coming back to it. But let me see if I can. Challenge accepted.
That doing it is coming up with some additional questions too for only business owners.
But I think that's number two, and the external stakeholder comes to mind. I think those are, that would be. Business.
It could be just a pretty much a modification, adaptation of the language around the external stakeholder. Those same questions you might want to give them, what words do they like to do, what makes them, phrasing it in a way of what, not necessarily what makes it unique from other suburbs, but something around why have they chosen to have a business in Windsor Heights? You would want, so that's an adaptation number three. I think you would keep four, or there would be more others should stop doing, and what advice would you have from the city council to see this? Those would all be things to not overcome. You don't want to get a lot of data. You want to get the data, if you're asking the questions, to make sure you're getting the right data to help guide you in your vision process. So if it could be tree or stem, depending how you want to talk about it, you know, resident, they go here, non-residents go here, non-resident as a business owner, so non-resident business owner, I can just find the question. If you do that, the last thing, because it's not currently in the plan, and I don't know, what if we're very successful getting it out on social media, and somebody sees it at the Hy-Vee when they stop on the way home from working at Drake on the way to Urbandale, and they do the QR code, and they go to Miami non-Windsor Heights resident, does it just say, thank you very much for dialing in, but we're receiving insight from only residents, or how did you get this? Or whatever.
I think there's value in asking a couple of questions, but yeah, but not all of them, yeah.
I think you want to,
That's because we're parochial.
you want a parochial survey is what you want, which is insight from people that are either living here, or working here, or doing business with the region. The piece that we haven't factored into this is people that have businesses here that want residents.
I think we also on those is like this, not only the size of the business, but how long they've been.
Sorry to throw that bridge plans.
That's why we have these meetings.
This is why we talked about this, Todd.
Remember what Sandra opened with, this is your service, not our service. We're not doing you a good service if we don't get you the data that we're interested in. Because where this becomes really problematic is 2 sessions from now when you say, well, what did the business owners that are residents say about what we should be looking at? And we say, well, we didn't ask. That's problematic. This meeting is not problematic. That's why we have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good for you. Very good. And if I could, Sandra, just say, because we do this in all of our work, you know, we talked about the compact, how we get into business, and then we all do a praise and polish. What do we do well, what do we do better? And I just want to say, all the things that you listed, you wanted to do, there was very good dialogue here, there was good conversation, respect the process. I think you did a great job with it. The reason that's important is because when it doesn't go that way, you've got to use the same tool and say, well, we could have done it better on that. So I do want to always bring that back to it, because there's kind of the guardrails of how we're trying to have these conversations. Everything that you brought up tonight is best interest of this. That's what it is. So I just want to thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to know if Joseph's still awake.
He's gone.
He's gone. We keep, I
Texted me up.
oh, I was like, I've been
Oh.
texting him and trying to go and trying to find him, but he.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. Appreciate it very much.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Series.
Yes.
Jones, absent. Libby.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Arms.
Hi, everybody.
Time 7:55.